Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are undertaking a really deep exploration into what many traditions call the core of your existence.
That's right. The holy daemon.
What?
Or, sometimes it's called the holy guardian angel.
And this isn't just like a spiritual allegory or some vague self-help idea, is it?
No, not at all. The material we're looking at describes it as a tangible, a profound, non-metaphorical force.
Something capable of literally breathing resilient spiritual substance back into your life. That sounds pretty powerful.
It is. And our mission today, it's ambitious. We've sort of split it into two main parts.
Okay.
First, we'll trace how this idea of a personal guiding spirit evolved.
Yeah.
We'll look at three key ancient traditions,
Mm-hmm.
the Chaldeans, the Zoroastrians, and the ancient Greeks.
Right, the historical root.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then we pivot. We move to the practical side.
The how-to.
Sort of.
Yeah.
We'll unveil a detailed, modern, four-stage magical path. It's designed specifically for achieving conscious communion with this daemon.
And this path isn't just theoretical?
No, it's rooted directly in deep esoteric research. The goal is really to transform the practitioner, from just a student into a genuine adept.
Okay, but why now? Why is this so important today? We need to set that context.
Absolutely. The sources are very clear on this. We're living in a time defined by immense systemic pressure.
You mean things like...
Think about the global exploitation loops, how our time and energy get extracted, or the rise of rigid nationalism, often fueled by, forgetting history.
And that isolation we feel, even when we're constantly connected technologically, instant gratification instead of real connection.
Precisely. All these forces, they actively work to degrade our personal resilience, our spiritual integrity.
So the Daimon connection, it's presented as the antidote.
The supreme antidote, according to this view, it's the force that restores that inner light, replenishes the spiritual body.
It gives you the internal framework needed to stop collapsing under all that external stress.
Yes. And in this worldview, achieving this connection, it's arguably the most powerful way you can serve life itself.
Yeah. Okay, so to understand the modern path, we need to go back. Back to the Chaldeans.
Yes, where so much of Western occult thought really begins. Though, it's important to be clear about the term Chaldean.
Right, it wasn't always used the same way.
No. Initially, it referred to a specific Semitic people ruling Babylon. But after Babylon fell to the Persians, around 539 BCE, the term broadened out.
It became a shorthand.
Pretty much. It became synonymous with anyone skilled in the deep occult arts, especially things like astrology, divination, and complex planetary ritual magic.
And their view of the cosmos. It was quite something, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Highly polytheistic and, frankly, pragmatically terrifying.
Everything was alive with spirits.
Everything. Their world was densely populated. You had benevolent entities, sure, but also some really potent demonic forces.
The sources mention the 7 wicked Machim. What were they exactly?
Think of them as Mesopotamian celestial bailiffs, enforcement spirits. They acted as counterforces to the 7 planetary spirits, and were always looking for a way in, trying to get leverage in the human world.
So a constant spiritual battle happening just out of sight.
That's the picture. And this leads us to the really critical distinction about Chaldean magic. Their outlook was entirely, utilitarian.
Meaning, if the world's constantly under threat, what was the goal for a Chaldean mage?
Survival. Pure and simple. They fundamentally lacked the concept we're exploring today, this idea of a transcendent personal daemon assigned at birth, something to unite with spiritually.
Their focus was much more grounded.
Completely immediate. On the material plane, their magic was all about striking beneficial temporary alliances.
With helpful spirits, patrons or familiars.
Exactly. For immediate gains, a good harvest, protection from sickness, maybe some financial luck.
Or trapping the bad ones.
Or trapping the wicked ones through ritual containment, yes. But they didn't aim for the ascension of man. That whole philosophical pursuit of theurgy, the idea of becoming godlike, wasn't really on their radar.
You mentioned something interesting earlier about Kether resting in Malkuth for them. Can you unpack that a bit? It sounds very Kabbalistic.
It is, and it's key. Kether represents the crown, the highest source of transcendent divinity in the Kabbalistic tree. Malkuth is the kingdom, the material world.
Okay.
Saying Kether rested in Malkuth for them means that all divine and spiritual reality, as they experienced it, was accessed and interacted with only through the lens of material consequence.
So gods and spirits only mattered in how they affected their physical lives.
Precisely. The intervention was always external, aimed at a tangible result in the physical realm. The idea of an internal immortal essence guiding them towards some higher state of being, it just wasn't part of their framework.
Daimonic influence was always an outside force, never an inner guide.
Never an innate guiding truth within the soul, and that is the fundamental difference compared to what came next.
Right, because here's where it gets really interesting, doesn't it? Zoroastrianism comes in and introduces the conceptual architecture that just fundamentally shifts Western occultism, especially on this idea of a personal spirit guide.
Absolutely. Zoroastrianism is defined by this radical, pervasive dualism,
The big struggle.
the eternal fundamental struggle between Ahura Mazda, the good creator spirit, Spenthamenu, and his opposite, Ahriman, the destructive spirit, Angromenu.
And this isn't just like a big cosmic war out there.
No, this cosmic antagonism plays out on every single level of creation. It provides the blueprint for the moral struggle happening inside every single person.
And this dualism directly leads to the concept of the fravashi.
Yes, the fravashi, which is basically the essential antidote to all that constant spiritual affliction from the dark side.
How is it defined?
It's the individual spirit patron, sometimes called the double spirit form. And it's assigned not just to humans, but to all created matter, animals, plants, even some inanimate objects,
Wow, everything has one.
as its immortal celestial counterpart. It exists before birth, apparently, and then reunites with the soul after death. It's
Yeah.
like the perfect celestial blueprint for that thing.
This is huge, isn't it? Because it gives us the idea of the dual self.
Monumental. The idea that every person is internally torn between two twins.
One evil, one good.
Basically, yeah. An evil demon or lower, destructive self on one side, and a beneficial angel or higher self on the other.
And this tension, it filters down through history.
Directly into texts like the Corpus Hermeticum, for instance, where you see humans being afflicted or helped by either a good or a wicked daemon. This framework really forced Western thought to start assigning moral labels, good or evil, to these spiritual forces.
Which, for the Greeks originally, weren't necessarily moral.
Exactly. They were often seen as more ambiguous, just powerful forces.
So how did the Zoroastrians actually engage with this fravashi concept? Was it just theory?
Oh no, invocation of the fravashi was a standard part of their spiritual practice. And crucially, it didn't seem to require the decades of intense purification you see in some later paths.
So more accessible, how did they do it?
It seems to have been a synthesis. Liturgical invocations combined with some pretty powerful shamanistic trance techniques.
Like what?
Well, the sources mention using haoma, which is believed to be a psychoactive substance. That combined with intense fire gazing and repetitive ecstatic prayer.
Aiming for that state of Hitlerfoot.
Exactly, Hitlerfoot. That state of burning devotional fervor. The practical goal was to essentially build a temporary, refined spiritual vessel inside the physical body.
A container.
A container, yes, to serve as a dwelling place for the invoked celestial powers.
Okay, that idea of creating a spiritual vessel, it feels like a natural bridge to the Greeks.
It does. Because with the Greeks, the focus shifts again. It becomes much more internalized, psychological, even philosophical, moving away from external patrons towards an internal mechanism for truth.
Yeah, in Greek thought, particularly with Plato, that battle really moves inside the human mind, doesn't it?
Completely.
Let's use Plato's famous chariot analogy to set the stage for our listener. It's pretty well known.
It is. So the human soul is pictured as a chariot. It's driven by the logos, that's reason, intellect, the charioteer.
And the horses.
Two horses. One is unruly, that's eros. It represents raw biological appetites, material desires, that kind of thing.
Wild horse.
Right. The other horse is noble, that's thumos, often translated as spiritedness or courage.
But it's more than just courage, isn't it?
Much more. It represents the part of our behavior shaped by our community, our social standing, the desire for recognition, honor, how we fit in.
Okay, so we have reason trying to control appetite and social conditioning. What's the problem?
The problem is immediate. The logos, or reason, is inherently compromised. It only gets data that's already been filtered, already biased by the desires of eros and the social programming of thumos.
So it can't see clearly.
It can't access true, unfiltered, objective reality on its own. So how do you do that?
And the answer is?
The nous, which translates roughly as mind, or maybe better, intuition.
Ah, the nous. This is the key, right? It's described as the daemon in man.
Precisely. The nous is seen as the immortal part of the soul. It's the source of pure divine insight, what they called gnosis.
So for Plato, connecting with the nous is the goal.
Alignment with the nous, yes. And that's achieved through the sustained philosophical pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. By doing that, the mortal self gets to sort of partake in immortality.
You elevate yourself by consciously aligning with your own internal transcendent daemon.
That's the idea.
Now, before Socrates really shaped things, the actual term daemon itself was still pretty ambiguous, wasn't it?
Very ambiguous. It was seen as this potent, non-moral, occult driving force. People feared it mainly because it seemed beyond human control.
So terms like agathodaemon or kakodaemon, they didn't originally mean good demon or evil demon?
Not necessarily in a moral sense.
Mhm.
It was more about the effect this neutral occult tide, the daemon, had on your fortune. Was it a positive effect or a negative effect?
So eudaimon, the happy man, just meant someone whose daemon had a good effect on them.
Exactly. Someone experiencing a beneficial flow from that force.
And then Socrates comes along and completely revolutionizes this with his daimonion.
He really does.
Yeah.
His divine internal mentor. He taught that this guidance wasn't just for special people like oracles or prophets.
It was accessible to anyone.
Anyone who rigorously chose to know yourself. And how do you do that?
Oh.
By interpreting all phenomena, every single experience, every accident, every thought, as the deeds of the gods.
Everything means something.
Yes, this is the direct philosophical ancestor to that later occult principle, the one where the adept has to swear to interpret every single thing in their life as a particular dealing of God or the gods with their soul.
So the voice of the daemon isn't just in some grand vision.
No, it's potentially in the mundane, too, in the constant, careful observation of a book of nature, of your own life unfolding.
Okay, so we've traced the roots. Let's transition now from that ancient theory to the modern, very pragmatic call to action that our sources present. And they seem quite critical of the state of ritual magic today.
Very critical, yes. The assessment is pretty stark. Ritual magic is seen as being in a state of decay.
Why? What's the problem?
The traditional chain, that direct living lineage where wisdom gets passed carefully from teacher to student, it's seen as broken.
And instead?
Well, in the current landscape, students are often treated more like customers. They might be looking for instant gratification, sort of browsing magical practices online or in books,
Instead of committing.
instead of committing to the deep, focused work required for actual transformation. Magic, in this negative view, has become almost like a consumer product, a quick menu item you can pick and choose from.
Rather than, as the source puts it, the grueling pitch-black shaft that requires you to throw your entire self into the effort.
Exactly. That level of commitment is seen as lacking.
And this is where the holy daemon comes in as the proposed solution, the radical fix.
Yes. If that external lineage, the teacher-student chain, is broken, then the daemon is presented as the one being capable of taking both ends of that broken chain and mending it internally.
Providing direct guidance.
Unique, direct guidance, especially once a practitioner moves beyond that initial apprenticeship phase and starts becoming a true adept.
But the level of commitment needed for that step, it sounds intense. The sources mention things like the Saturn retreat, the SATX.
They do.
Yeah.
And it's used as an example of the kind of serious personal work involved. We're talking about a grueling, intensive 4-week ritual.
What does it involve?
Things like minimal sleep, minimal food, minimal speech. And it culminates in the ritus thanatos, basically, a ceremonial burial.
Wow, okay. That sounds intentionally agonizing, almost like self-flagellation dressed up as spirituality.
It does sound that way on the surface.
So why? Why is that kind of institutionalized suffering seen as necessary? Can't you achieve this union through, sustained, gentle discipline, gradual refinement, instead of total exhaustion and ritualized suffering?
That's the common, maybe more romantic view. But the sources argue that view misses a critical point about the ego.
Which they call the veil of Malkuth, the incarnated personality.
Right. The goal of that intense suffering isn't about moral penance. It's about the deliberate, forceful dismantling of the ego's predictable patterns.
How so?
Look, when you suffer in your normal daily life, your ego has its usual defense mechanisms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anger, avoidance, maybe nostalgia, self-pity.
The familiar loops.
Exactly. The SATX is designed to force the whole system into such deep instability that those predictable patterns just get exhausted. They get starved out.
So you break down the ego.
You break it down, yes. Not to destroy it permanently, but to make it lose its structural rigidity, its predictability.
To allow something else to emerge.
To allow the magical higher self, they call it Acher, to gain agency, to step forward.
So the purpose is, quoting here, to shed all form, the I, to initiate the embodiment of the other possibilities, the self.
That's the core idea.
Yeah.
You make the self unstable and porous enough for the greater self, the daemon, to enter and integrate more fully.
It's an alchemical process, then, sacrificing the ego?
Sacrificing it, yes, but not as an end in itself. It's a necessary condition to cross what they call Saturn's restrictive threshold and access that next level of being.
Okay. Now, to help demystify what this relationship actually looks like once the ego has been, let's say, softened, the sources offer a pretty stark modern metaphor.
They do.
Yeah.
And it really reframes the relationship away from any romantic notions of, like, a helpful best friend in spirit form.
This is the metaphor of the operating theater.
That's the one. 3 key roles.
Yep.
First, there's you, your current incarnated self. You are the camera, or maybe the laser, at the end of the endoscope tube.
Okay, the instrument.
Second, the holy daemon. The daemon is the doctor performing the surgery.
And the patient.
The world is the patient's body. It's the field upon which the doctor is working, using you as the tool.
Right. And accepting this metaphor, it immediately imposes some pretty strict operating principles, doesn't it? Ones that kind of fly in the face of a lot of wish fulfillment magic.
Absolutely. The first principle is crucial. Conscious communion, the actual goal of this whole 4-stage path we're going to discuss. It's not strictly necessary for the daemon, the doctor, to operate you, the camera.
The relationship exists anyway. We're already being used.
You're already a tool in its hand, often completely without your awareness or consent. The operation is happening whether the camera knows it or not.
Okay. Principle 2.
The camera's true will is simply the doctor's will. The camera, you, lacks the necessary processing power, the perspective, to understand the full complexity of the operation being performed on the patient's body, the world.
So if the camera starts trying to second-guess the doctor...
If the camera starts arguing about where to point the laser, telling the doctor how to do the surgery, the operation fails, or at least it's compromised.
So the successful path, then, requires us to stop trying to be the doctor, stop romanticizing the relationship.
And instead focus entirely on self-refinement. Your job is to refine the camera.
Our senses, our personality, our spiritual body.
Make them a clearer, better, less distorted tool for the doctor's use. Which means accepting that your primary role is to listen infinitely more and to talk infinitely less.
Letting go of the ego's constant need to understand why the doctor's doing what they're doing.
Exactly. And just focusing on being the best possible lens, the most responsive instrument for the doctor's work in the world.
Okay, this brings us to the practice itself, this rigorous 4-stage cyclical path of purification and refinement. It's called systasis.
Yes, systasis. And the journey is defined by 4 distinct yet cyclical stages. Trust, joy, darkness, and finally, encounter.
And the whole point is...
The entire work is predicated on transforming the human personality, taking it from being this chaotic obstacle, this noisy camera,
into a willing, highly refined partner for the daemon, the doctor.
Just like...
So stage 1 is trust, which sounds straightforward, but its focus is maybe a bit surprising.
It is, because it's not primarily about trusting the daemon yet, not directly.
It's about trusting yourself first.
It's about mastering the power over the world within, gaining self-efficacy, so that you, the practitioner, stop being an internal obstacle in the great work.
What does that mean practically? Foundational integrity.
Yeah, things like the basic ability to follow through on intentions, to maintain focus over long periods, and crucially, to recover quickly and effectively from failure without collapsing.
Okay. And the exercises for this stage?
They are explicitly designed to build that deep self-trust by mastering something called polarity management.
Polarity management.
The ability to consciously generate intense spiritual power, and then just as consciously, wisely, and ethically let go of that power.
Holding the poison of power, as they say, without getting addicted to it.
Exactly. It's about responsible handling of inner force.
So the first exercise is stretching polarities.
Yes. Here, the practitioner actively contrasts 2 physical states. First, the open hand symbolizing relaxation, letting go, receiving, reflecting passively on your own history.
And the opposite.
The closed fist. This represents generated power, tension, the ability to build something, or potentially the ability to destroy something.
And the practice isn't just switching between them.
No, the focus is on the mind becoming the bridge between these 2 states, not identifying too strongly with the aggression of the fist, nor the passivity of the open hand.
Developing emotional agility.
The agility to switch between these modes without cognitive dissonance, without getting stuck in one or the other.
Okay. Next up is Trashak, gaze meditation.
Right, focused gaze meditation. But here it's used specifically to develop 2 distinct modes of awareness.
Mood 1.
Mode 1 is the classical approach. highly focused vision on a single candle flame. This strengthens rational conscious attention to logos at work. You also concentrate on the flame's afterimage behind closed eyelids.
And mode 2.
Mode 2 is different. It's called the eternity gaze. You use two distant flames, maybe two candles set far apart. You rest your gaze in the empty space between them.
Forcing peripheral vision.
Exactly. It forces you to perceive both flames peripherally, simultaneously. The focus is deliberately unfocused. It cultivates a broader, non-rational, more intuitive spiritual awareness.
And again, the key is the agility between them.
The agility, yes. It's not just about mastering focus or mastering peripheral awareness. It's about developing the mental ability to snap cleanly between focused, analytical thought and that wider, intuitive spiritual perception.
The kind of agility you'd need to pick up on the Daimon's subtle guidance.
Precisely. And finally, in this trust stage, we have a really profound meditation, the serpent and the egg.
Okay, sounds intriguing. How does it work?
It starts starkly. You take a raw egg and you deliberately throw it down. Smash it.
Why?
To experience the ease, the quickness, the finality of destructive power. To feel that impulse directly.
Okay, and then?
Then you take a second egg. This one is hard-boiled. And the goal now is completely different. You have to keep this egg intact, protected. You have to incubate it, hold it close to your body, keep it safe for one entire day.
An entire day. That sounds simple, but I imagine keeping that non-aggressive protective focus while just living your normal life must be exhausting.
It is psychologically exhausting because it forces you into constant, non-aggressive, protective awareness. That state is fundamentally contrary to the ego's usual impatience, its short attention span, its destructive urges.
You're forced to feel the cost of creation versus destruction.
Directly. The immediate, easy satisfaction of smashing that first egg contrasts so sharply with the sustained, quiet, protective humility needed to keep the second egg safe all day.
So the takeaway from stage 1 isn't about getting more power.
No. The crucial takeaway is ethical. You develop the deep self-trust needed to handle power wisely, ethically. You trust yourself to make judgments without being swayed by emotion, even when there's no external validation, no measurable success to point to. You trust your own inner calibration.
All right, stage 2 is joy, which feels like a fascinating, maybe even counterintuitive inclusion in a path that seems focused on Saturnian darkness and rigor. Why joy? Why not, say, perseverance or detachment?
It's a really important piece of spiritual defense, actually. Think about it. The intense isolation often required for deep magical work, like that SEDEX retreat, it inherently creates an empty vessel.
Okay.
Now, that empty state, if it isn't filled correctly, consciously, it becomes immediately vulnerable.
Vulnerable to what?
To spiritual entities or influences that prey on certain states.
Yeah.
Things like melancholy, passive suffering, nostalgia, those sentimental states that can feel comfortable but are effectively spiritual welcome mats for unwanted guests.
So joy acts as a shield.
Joy, specifically this concept of Hitlerhavet, acts as the protective, self-sustaining shield that fills and preserves the vessel, keeping those other influences out.
Hitlerhavet, that's the Hebrew word for burning or flame.
Yes, it comes from the Polish Hasidic tradition. It
Right.
signifies this ecstatic, deeply mystical fervor, and it's accessed primarily via the voice.
And it's very different from modern mindfulness practices, more active.
Radically distinct from passive mindfulness. The sources even call it a form of religious anarchism
Why anarchism?
because it bypasses intellectualism. It bypasses complex book learning, erudition, even intricate formal ritual structures. It relies entirely on a direct, non-intellectual approach to the divine.
Through sound.
Through the idea that the pure, burning melody of the soul expressed through the voice is what carries prayer immediately up into the heavens. This fervor becomes a constant internal heat source, protecting the self.
Okay, so the main practice here is magical singing.
Yes. And the human voice here isn't just treated as sound. It's a powerful magical tool. A hybrid power, half spirit, half flesh, capable of actually stirring and separating spiritual substance.
So it's not about singing beautifully.
Not about vocal beauty in the conventional sense. It's about making the body vibrate, a frequency that elevates the whole system, mind, body, blood, flesh, allowing it to heal itself and resonate more clearly with the spiritual world.
How do you practice this?
It starts simply, using single, powerful lines from specific psalms, for instance.
Like the example given from Psalm 91, the Sun Psalm. For he will order his angels to care for you and guard you wherever you go.
Exactly. Using lines like that to train the vocal flow, the vibration, tuning the body like a sound box.
And the more advanced practice, sealing the vessel with joy.
That involves tuning yourself specifically to the light and sound of the sun, done ideally during the solar hour.
How?
You concentrate your awareness on the midpoint, the energetic space between yourself and the physical sun. You use that focus connection to draw in and access a silent, non-emotional, almost natural force of joy.
Not happiness, but joy as a force.
Yes, a steady internal state that becomes the spiritual preservative, sealing that vessel against negativity.
Okay, this brings us to stage 3, darkness. The stage of reckoning, it sounds like.
It is. This is where the practitioner prepares for something quite violent, actually being ripped out of their comfort zone.
Which includes?
Which includes letting go of the secondary gains that suffering often affords us. You know, the predictable pain of the pacing panther, the man watching from the ridge.
Those familiar patterns, even painful ones, provide a strange kind of safety, don't they?
A very predictable rhythm.
Yeah.
And they have to be abandoned voluntarily.
Which requires real courage.
True courage, yes. But not courage born from simply ignoring fear. It's courage born from the profound, direct, first-hand experience of fear itself.
And this leads to the Saturn ritual for standing at the threshold.
Exactly. This demands serious preparation, a completely light-proof space. And it's performed during Saturn's hour, traditionally seen as a difficult, restrictive time.
What's the process?
You extinguish the physical flame, the candle. Then you extinguish the visual flame, that inner light of the mind, the constant chatter. You force the self to just float in a centerless, absolute void, pure darkness.
And the purpose of this darkness isn't just sensory deprivation, it's confrontation.
It is the moment of coexistence with the void, with limitlessness. And in that state, the practitioner must actively reach out, mentally, into the sphere of Saturn.
And do what?
And sing a specific, powerful incantation. Take what is worn, devour what is waste, peruse what is I, for I am not afraid, but born from your fire.
Wow, that's quite a surrender.
It's terrifying. You're asking Saturn, the great archetype of time, limitation, decay, the devourer, to literally take the parts of yourself that are spent, wasted, redundant, to strip you down.
Okay. What's the next phase after facing that?
The next phase is crossing the threshold. And this requires obtaining the Daimon's specific name.
How do you get that?
Often through traditional astrological calculation methods, like those described by Agrippa, based on the precise planetary alignments at your moment of birth. It yields a unique spiritual signature.
And once you have the name?
With that name, the practitioner returns to the darkness ritual, but this time they sing the Daimon's name.
Along with that PGM formula.
Yes, the formula of reciprocal identity from the Greek magical papyri. For you are I and I am you. Your name is mine and mine is yours, for I am your image, NN, using the calculative name.
This is called the highest mystical prayer.
It's presented that way because it represents total consent. It's the agreement to the dissolution of the limited mortal self into the divine.
An invitation.
A direct invitation for the daemon to fully enter, to reshape consciousness. It's consciously breaking the cage of the old ego structure.
And so we arrive at the final stage, stage 4, encounter. This uses a specific alchemical rite, the systasis idiou daimonos.
Yes, taken directly from the Greek magical papyri, specifically PGM.505, is a highly syncretic, very complex rite.
And the assumption here is all about correct practice.
Absolutely. Orthopraxy, correct practice, precise execution is considered paramount. It supersedes any need for abstract belief. You do the steps correctly, the result follows.
Okay, so the ritual begins with what's called the skinning process, stage 1.
That's right. The magician has to consciously externalize 6 specific spiritual beings or forces.
Forces that normally
remain completely indistinguishable from the objective flow of reality. They act like layers of unseen skin over our true self, conditioning our experience.
And these are?
Taish, or fate, place, the spirit of location, the hour, the day, time itself, and finally the all-embracing spirit of the sublunary realm, the mundane world.
How on earth do you skin objective forces like time or place?
Through specific incantations and ritual actions, you bind the essence of each of these forces into 6 separate pebbles.
Why?
It effectively peels these conceptual skins off your spiritual body. It allows you to see them as objective, separate spiritual counterparts, rather than internal limitations you're stuck with.
So you stop identifying with the limits imposed by, say, your birth hour or your location or your perceived fate.
Exactly. You free the core self from these layers of ingrained spiritual conditioning. You see them as external influences you can now relate to differently.
Okay, after the skinning comes purification, stage 2.
Yes. The magician takes the first of 2 prepared eggs. This one has a lengthy Helios conjuration inscribed on it.
Helios, the sun god.
Right. You rub this inscribed egg all over your body. The idea is to draw out any lingering residue left by those six spirits and just the general grime of mortal existence.
Then.
And then, this is critically, you carefully lick the inscribed name and formula off the egg, and then you discard the egg itself.
Lick it off. Why?
It's described as a specific safety measure. By licking the name, you actively reabsorb any essential aspect of your own self or any spark of the Helios power invoked that should remain integrated with you.
So you don't accidentally throw out part of yourself with the egg.
Precisely. It prevents spiritual fragmentation or damage before the material carrier, the eggshell, is safely discarded.
Clever. Okay, then comes charging stage 3.
With the second egg.
Yes, this second egg needs to be filled with cosmic fire.
How is that done? Through intense internal visualization and invocation. You ritually draw energy directly from the sun, channeling it into the egg while reciting another long, very syncretic Helios conjuration.
This one references Egyptian concepts.
The deep Egyptian solar mythology, yes. The solar barks, Kiathi, the night bark, and Mantu, the day bark, symbolizing the sun's eternal journey and continuity of power, and also the scarab god Khepri.
Khepri, the scarab beetle. Why him?
Khepri is incredibly significant here. He represents the self-born being, the prototype of existence rising spontaneously from nothingness. Invoking him reinforces the ultimate goal of this rite, spiritual self-creation, using the sun's fire to birth the daemon fully into conscious reality within you.
And this isn't just reading it.
No, the formula must be known by heart, recited with power, and the visualization must be so intense that the egg is perceived, internally at least, to visibly glow with the accumulated solar energy.
Okay. Final steps. Inflaming and communion. Stages 4 and 5.
Right. That cosmic, fire-charged egg. You swallow it.
You swallow the egg.
You swallow the egg. The intention is to allow those pure divine solar forces to spread through your entire system, inflaming the spiritual body, preparing it for the final shock of direct contact.
And then?
Finally, the practitioner sits in silent, intentional presence. They begin to softly sing the daemon's name, the one obtained earlier. They visualize this vast, brilliant being approaching.
And wait.
And wait for the final, undeniable confirmation, the distinct sensation of a touch on the shoulders. This touch signals the initiation of conscious, stable communion, systasis.
Wow, that whole process. It's incredibly detailed and intense.
It is, but the culmination itself is often described as one of the most natural, yet utterly breathtaking events of life. It's a profound internal process that this complex ritual is designed to accelerate, stabilize, and make conscious. #outro.
So we've covered a huge amount of ground. We've journeyed through millennia of thought from the Chaldean focus on practical results in Malkuth.
All the way to this rigorous, modern 4-stage ritual, meticulously designed to create a clear, undistorted channel between the highest intuition, the nous, and the physical world.
And it's clear this path demands a lot. Sacrifice, certainly. Humility, a willingness to fail probably many times and just rebuild.
It does. But crucially, the sources suggest this practice entirely shifts the focus of the adept's life, away from competition, away from ego-driven getting and having.
Towards collaboration.
Towards collaboration. Collaboration with all the myriad beings you encounter on the path, seen and unseen. And ultimately, collaboration with your own higher self, the daemon.
It's also important to remember something you mentioned earlier. Complexity isn't the goal.
Absolutely not. Complexity is never the criterion for efficacy in magic. Sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful.
And the final realization from the sources, it's almost one of profound simplicity, isn't it?
It really is. The idea that nature, the cosmos itself, is perfectly capable of bringing about this communion all by itself. Your role isn't to invent the magic.
It's just to create the right conditions.
To create the right refined conditions within yourself. To be, the purified powder ready in the alchemist's flask or the perfectly prepared stone waiting in the quarry.
And as the practice deepens, the realization hits. Quoting again, "The more we progress, the more we realize how little magic it takes to achieve true magic."
It becomes less about elaborate doing and more about refined being. Our deep dive today really underscores that your existence, your individual life, matters immensely.
Not because of achievements or status.
No, but because of the incredible spiritual possibility you embody. The possibility of becoming a clear, willing vessel for the divine will, for the daemon's work.
So, as you, our listener, reflect on all this, maybe consider this final, provocative thought we can leave you with. What structural patterns in your own life, maybe your predictable ways of suffering, the hidden comforts you get from familiar egoic pain, What would you actually have to give up to become the best possible version of yourself? To become that truly polished bridge, allowing undisturbed communication between your deepest intuition, your nonius, and the world of matter. That possibility, well, that defines your immense importance in the grand scheme of things.